afternoon, Senator.
Good afternoon.
I'm Beverly Wilson, the chair of this committee. And we're just so excited and thankful that you took the time to come for this meeting. Just to give you a short credit like all of Florida. The Democratic Black Caucus of Florida is a part of the Democratic Party of Florida, representing the African American members of the party. It was established in 1982 by Attorney Morris Milton to unite and increase the political power for Black Democrats. The caucus is an integral part of the Florida Democratic Party's infrastructure and supports qualified candidates. It aims to improve voter participation through voter registration, education, and get out the vote. Mr. Henry Crespo is our state president. I'm joined on the panel this morning by our other members of the committee. To my left is Marion Williams. To her left is Lydia Hudson. To my right is Jerry Ware, and to her right is Cass Hall. And we're going to give you a 2-minute opening statement. You will have your little signals. The orange sign says you have 30 seconds. The yellow sign, 15, and the green is pass. So would you please begin?
The green time or the green?
The green is time.
Yeah, it is roughly.
Awesome. Good afternoon, folks. I am State Senator Dwight Bullard. I've had the pleasure of serving both in the House of Representatives and the Florida Senate. And so I understand the interesting political landscape that is Florida. I've had a chance at this point to travel from Pensacola all the way down to Key West. And I can tell you undoubtedly that the struggle and the success of African American Democrats around the state is universal. So whether you are a Black Democrat in Pensacola or a Black Democrat in South Tampa or a Black Democrat in Palm Beach Lakes, I can tell you that there are similar stories being told both during and post-election about some of the things that are, I'm sure, of concern and maybe asking the questions. I was seeking the office of Chair of the Florida Democratic Party because we fundamentally need to change the way we do business here in Florida. And it is my hope that over the course of this question and answer session that we come to understand each other and what my intentions are. And I'm hoping that I did get a chance to sort of give you a greater indication of who I am and what I'm about. But I can tell you now that in my time of service over the last 8 years as an elected official and my 16 years as a public educator, I believed that diversity in any playing field needs to be one of a healthy respect for all the different cultural nuances and differences that we all share. And so as I try to ascend to the chairmanship of the Florida Democratic Party, that is my ultimate goal, to be someone who helps create that glide path towards a better, more diverse, and more robust, and more successful, when we double down on that word, successful Democratic Party. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our first question is, what sets you apart from the other candidates that would garner the DBCF support?
You want me to state the obvious? Or you want me to Well, let me nuance the obvious. How about that? This is the first time that someone would have been chair of the Florida Democratic Party that is African American, and that is undoubtedly going to be no easy task, considering that we have to be honest with ourselves, we still deal with some of the old bastions of racism, especially in the southern state. That being said, I'm more battle tested than any other candidate that's going to come before you. And what I mean by that is I've successfully run and won elections. Other folks may have cut checks, other folks may have been on campaign staff or volunteered, but this is not my first time putting myself before the proverbial firing squad, if you will. And so for that reason, I understand that we are at a difficult tipping point here as Democrats across the board in the state of Florida. And you're going to need someone who's thick-skinned and understands that unfortunately it gets a little bit worse before it gets better. But when you're at the point where you know that we can move forward successfully, and that there is a background that you possess that speaks to change, speaks to the ability to articulate issues of great concern to diverse communities, to speak with one voice, collective voice for Democrats, then that's going to be my ultimate goal. And so beyond, again, the obvious, I think it's important for you to understand that I am the most ready, willing, and able to step before the collective community of Democrats that aren't oftentimes in our DECs and in our rooms or in our caucuses, who are looking for somebody to champion their issues and what they're concerned about. And I've been there and I've done that, and looking forward to do it again as FDP chair.
Okay, what is your position on the role of caucuses, and how will you engage caucuses in your administration?
Well, I believe caucuses in this kind of 21st century notion of the Democratic Party represent the front line of recruitment and retention of new Democrats. And what I mean by that is people are oftentimes turned off by the concept of the local DEC. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I've been the head of one, so I get the fact that trying to get someone to come to a meeting in which they may not know folks and have ideas and have those ideas kind of shot down because of pre-existing tensions and concerns may be a turnoff. But the difference between the DECs and the caucuses is that you all have the benefit of fighting for particular issues as it relates to things around gender, ethnicity, etc. And so for someone who's been a part of this 21st century civil rights struggle around things like police brutality and social injustice, the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida represents for them an opportunity to get in a room with people who look like them and talk about those issues that most concern them, and then hopefully it will be the caucus that will ultimately cultivate or guide them into the larger democratic process of involvement. And so as an FDP chair, I understand the necessity of supporting the work that the caucuses do. But I think more importantly, where I excel at is standing on the forefront of issues that are concerns to the caucus. I think one of the greatest concerns around some of the caucuses is that the larger FDP does not fight for the issues that they care most about. And I think having an FDP chair that's A, already done it, and B, willing to do it again is going to be essential to the change that we need over the course of the next 4 years.
Our next question.
What will be your financing plan to help and support caucus's fundraising efforts?
Well, my fundraising plan is to try and to reinvigorate and re-engage small donor finance programs here at the state party level. And what I view a small donor as, and anyone who's run a campaign knows this, and we'll use the universal term of Ms. Johnson because we all know Ms. Johnson. When Ms. Johnson on a fixed income gives you her $5 that comes with that expectation that you need to come back and see Ms. Johnson during your tenure in office, and because she's going to want to hold you accountable. And I understand that. And so I think it's important, but the beauty of that investment is that it's just that. It's her commitment to you and your commitment to her, that you're going to be there and that she's going to hold your feet to the fire. So when we talk about a small donor program, whether it's $3, $5, or $10, spread among several folks, they're now making an investment in the Democratic Party that says, I want to be a part of something. And more importantly, when I send that email, when I make that phone call, when I make that suggestion, I want to know that it's not falling on deaf ears. And so when it comes to the benefit to the Black Caucus in terms of that finance program, I think it's important to do things like 50-50 fundraising. And what I mean by that is the FDP comes in along with the Black Caucus, and if the FDP can use its weight to make sure that you all get a high-profile speaker, or to get someone who's going to bring clout and potentially revenue into your organization, you're able to say that for the ticket cost, we split the difference. Ours will be nominal in the sense of just covering the basic housekeeping costs for flying someone or housing someone. But you all will then have the additional benefit of that revenue, not to mention the credibility of saying that the Reverend Mr. Jackson came to our event, or Senator Cory Booker came to our event. I think we underutilize our power as a swing state, that folks want to come speak before you and be held accountable. So when we think about folks who want to be president in the next cycle, and we understand political ego, I don't think it's much to extend the invitation and expect that person will ultimately show up if called upon.
What I'd like to add to that is that a former FDP chair, and I'm going to mention her name, Karen Thurman, and the Democratic Veteran Caucus, which is near and dear to me, and I'm in that state level and local level, and I charter all of the caucuses. We have very first fundraising, and the party gave that fundraiser for us and gave us exactly what you're saying. They gave us the funding, they split it and gave us. That's how we got started and had money in the bank. I'd like to see more of that. Put on fundraisers when we have those quarterly meetings, and that has given us some kind of meat in our caucus. So I like your 50-50 plan.
And how would you support the existing caucuses in the structure bill?
You talking about the structure building for the FDP?
Yeah, for the caucuses as it relates to.
Okay, I guess I'm trying to unpack the question. So could you repeat it for me again?
Okay, we got it written out. How will you support the existing caucuses in structure bill?
Infrastructure within the caucus.
Structure bill,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Because I didn't know if you know physical
I
building.
talk
or anything.
fast.
No problem. Just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. I'm always I'm not a top-down leader. I never have been. I'm always the one who finds the best ideas are oftentimes birthed right there within the caucus or whatever structure is there. If there is uncertainty or instability, as an FDP chair, I have no problem sort of stepping in and helping cultivate a better atmosphere, a more workable atmosphere. But I'm never going to be one to exert influence. I'm going to sit there and say, hey, listen, folks, in order for the Democratic Party to be successful, we need a successful, strong Democratic Black Caucus. More importantly, we need a functioning Black Caucus in multiple areas around the state that are out there doing this work. And so anything I can do to help cultivate that, and in terms of putting it into food fights or tug of wars that may have existed over the past, my deliberate statement at the very beginning of my tenure would be that we want to win races. We want to make sure that we have levels of diversity among Democrats statewide, and the only way to do that in a very robust and functioning way is to have a functioning Democratic Black Caucus. And so if folks can't, for whatever reason, put aside their egos to get that done, then as FDP chair, you have to step in and intervene. But I'm going to be very deliberate about giving folks first and second chances to do things the correct way, to make sure that their charter is up to date, to make sure that you're doing everything, to make sure you have a working and functioning executive board. But we don't want this function, especially considering our storied past around how people will ultimately view and judge all of us based on the actions of the field.
Okay. The FDP bylaws have been in effect for the last 4 administrations with very minor changes. Will you be open to making changes? If so, what will they be?
Yes, is the answer on the open. I would even go farther than to say that the bylaws are probably there are portions of the bylaws that have been around since before some of us could go to school one another. And the reality is that we need to open up those bylaws and make those changes where necessary, and do kind of a real overhaul or deep dive into significant bylaws changes. One of my greatest concerns is eliminating some of the bureaucracy that frustrates folks to no end, and creating a level of transparency. So whether that talks about the notion of going beyond the quarterly meeting, or allowing caucuses and ECs to call the emergency meetings in a quicker way, shape, or form, I would address those issues. I know there's a serious concern around weighted vote that we're going to have to address, because I know that we have members in small counties and members in large counties, all members of the DBCF, that have concerns around that issue. But I think it's important for all of us to listen to those respective concerns and address it. Of course, the DNC has already rolled out some guidelines that they'd like us to follow to align ourselves better with other state parties around that issue. So kind of taking a look at best practices is going to be critically important. I was posed a very impressive question that I think I should let you all know about as well. Someone raised the issue that if President Obama were to retire in Florida and 4 years from now or 8 years from now decided he wanted to run for FDP chair but had not been directly involved in the local DEC, is there a pathway for him to do it outside of the one we have now? And the answer is no. But I think all of us can agree he'd make a heck of the FDP chair if he were here. So being able to give somebody the ability to run, but also holding them accountable for their democratic credentials, I think is going to be critically important. Our bylaws currently don't address that. The ability to say, if you have a former president of the United States or someone who you know is deeply invested in the Democratic Party and Democratic process, coming in, and wanting to move into an executive position, we should have some sort of pathway for them to do that outside of he must be a state committee man or must be a chair or vice chair in order to run. So those are some of the issues I would.
So you would be in favor of revising the bylaws to do away with that state committee man or woman must hold that position in order to run for an FDP chair, and open the process up to, if you are a Democrat, no matter where you reside.
Well, no, I would definitely
in the 67 counties.
I would definitely want to pay homage to a system that requires people to be participatory in the state party process.
So that would be in addition to opening.
Yeah, and then create some sort of nuanced way.
You don't want to open in.
Yeah, you don't want anybody with a
yeah.
deregistration coming in. You want, well, what I mean by that is, it's President Obama.
Right.
Right. Right. And so the ability to sort of check a box and say you have credentials that say you are committed to the cause.
Some quality.
Yeah,
you don't want any real.
Yeah, not just somebody who
say
says,
I'm running.
Not like some millionaire who may have switched parties to decide to run for president. And have a sense of the White House. Nothing crazy.
One thing I want to put in here quickly to you. What are your feelings about doing away with the loyalty of, some counties find that cumbersome. Do you think we should retain the loyalty oath? We're Democrats, and you know we check in the mail, you know you're a Democrat. Do you still think we need that little piece of paper saying, I am loyalty, but there's another little piece to that?
Yeah, I think, and that does pose a challenge for some folks. But what I would say is, and all of us can understand this moving into a gubernatorial cycle,
right,
is you may have I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but you may have a big city mayor who has decided to move further and further to the right in terms of their positions, policies, and even candidates they've endorsed. Now I want him to say, I want to be your governor. Now how do you in good conscience say, all right, I want to pull you back towards the core concerns you know about, but you've been in bed with, developers who've been gentrifying, and you've been in bed with these folks who've been, you know, polluting, and these folks over here who've been undermining communities of color. But now I want you to change colors and come join us over here, or I'm going to cast my vote for you for governor of the state of Florida, knowing your record. I think the loyalty oath is a interesting system that
It's
you
a
can,
double-edged sword.
yeah, that you can at least use to hold people accountable to an extent. And I know a lot of cities, unfortunately, are trying to move to these so-called nonpartisan elections so that folks can kind of operate in the shadows in that regard. As an elected official, as a Democratic elected official, if there were Democrats in the race, even if I did fundamentally disagree with them as a candidate, I was never going to work against them. And I think the loyalty oath speaks to that.
What will your organization chart look like when you become chair?
Diverse is the first word that comes to mind. And what I mean by that is, so the Democratic Party chair, the first vice chair, of course, is elected, but the three other vice chairs that are on that executive board, I would ultimately like to make regional vice chairs and be very sort of deliberate about making sure that that person represented the collective voice of those regions, whether it be, you know, northwest, north, middle, and then southern. And how to get all this done in those three appointees is going to be interesting, but I also like one to be under the age of 35. I think we've lost the connection between some of our youth vote, YD organizations, college Dems, because they feel the party structure is too antiquated and outside their scope of reach. So I'd love somebody who does represent a voice for them or liaison to them at the executive level, so that they know that, you know, if they decide to stay within the party structure, that their ascendancy into the executive appointments doesn't have to be one where I have to wait 30, 40 years before I can get there. And you know, that's sort of the olive branch mentality of trying to build a bigger, better, stronger Democratic Party, is that people want to know that the executive leadership is reflective of their mind, body, and soul. So that would be it.
I have an additional question for you. This pertains to the most recent question about the bylaws. And earlier in your response, you mentioned transparency as pertains to the bylaws. We've heard that before. And so I was curious to you, when you say transparency as pertains to the bylaws, what does that mean to voters in Florida?
Well, and I'm a public school teacher, so I'm always about breaking things down to their most simplistic form. Right? So we know that bylaws can be obtained online, at least at the local DEC level. I mean, there's always been glitches in the FDP website where they may not be able to be broken down, but even kind of breaking them down further into maybe some frequently asked questions around the bylaws, where folks can click a link and get a simplistic breakdown as to sections of the bylaws that they may or may not understand, to just give a layman's explanation, so that folks can then argue or make indication that I want to change this part. And that's, you know, as FDP chair, that's critically important for me to do, is be open, honest, and transparent with you about, if we're going to do this, have you taken, you know, have you told the collective? You know, a lot of where we've lost touch is that, you know, we'll be talking to somebody from a small county and they'll say we want this. And then you go talk to somebody from a big county and they'll say they want this. You talk to somebody from this caucus, they say they want this. And my question to them is always going to be, have you talked with everyone else?
Sorry, Caroline. I didn't get them.
Oh, but that's me. I was like, man, I thought time cue was... But that would be it, is when I say transparency, I want people to have a working, functional understanding of how we do and be critical of the things that need to be changed. And that's the thing. I don't view criticism of the bylaws as an incoming chair or a candidate as a criticism of my leadership style, because those bylaws have been there, you know, they preceded me. But I think if we're going to talk about making a change, that if we're going to make a change, that doesn't necessarily fall in the chair to do the legwork for something that you've wanted for 4 or 5 years. You know, the question is, have you built a coalition around that idea? You know, that concept. You know, is it coming from a diverse group of people that says what you're about to do is going to work well for us here at the state of Florida?
Thank you. And good luck.
Oh, that's it.
That ends our interview.
Okay. Whatever, just get stuff. I didn't get a chance to introduce, in case anyone, this is not my attorney, this is
Is he recording?
He's not recording. This is my best friend,
I'm just
Mr. Denzel Burnside, who is, just to show you his love of outreach, until a couple months back, was not going to set foot in the Democratic caucus of DC, but out of his appreciation for me and our brotherhood, has been a staunch supporter in this endeavor. So, you know, this is kind of a new face, as he likes to call himself. He's one of the geriatric millennials. You know, he's on the cusp of being being outside that club, but still has a way of reaching back and talking with young folks about this. And as I want to articulate for him, because he doesn't get a chance to say it, the group of folks that are coming behind him and myself are much more radicalized and desirous of change, and they want it in a Facebook world. They want it immediately, and they're going to demand it. And the problem is that as Democrats, if we're not careful, we're going to lose those folks and their energy in making the changes that we deem necessary, because, you know, those are the folks that say, all right, I don't have to vote Democrat. I'm not going to be committed to your candidate. I'm not going to do the things that you say do because I want change, and your system is too antiquated for me to change it. So I'm committed, just so you know. I know you didn't ask for a closing statement. It's okay. I'm committed to the use of technology, and because I've been a high school teacher, I think reaching back is so critically important, because at some point, our active members within the DECs, clubs, and caucuses are going to say, I'm tired of doing the work, you know, and I just want to be a voter. But I want somebody who's battle-tested, who's done some things, has been committed to the cause. So for those of you who are familiar with, you know, the brothers like Philip Agnew or Andrew Gillum, who are these younger, more idealistic folks that want to get out there and see some things happen, these are the kind of folks that want to do the work, but they're not asking for permission, but they will ask for forgiveness.